Well, I'm now joined by Kyle Curtis, the Yakima County Commissioner, who gave this month's State of the County address. Kyle, very good to see you. Thanks very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me, John. Appreciate it.
Now, one of the things that you focused on very much in the county address was the homeless situation, and that's something that's very important to you and that you addressed a lot. What would you like to add in terms of the situation and how you're moving forward? Because I know you have another homeless action plan coming out, I think, at the end of November.
Yeah, it has to be adopted by the commissioners by the end of December here. Yes, yeah. No, the reason I chose to spend a substantial amount of time for the State of the County address on homelessness is because homelessness is something that impacts everyone in our community. It's something, frankly, that I get the most constituents, business leaders, and concerned community leaders that reach out to me. And so we are in a pivotal change, I would say, on how we address homelessness in Yakima County. As you have well covered, we are in the middle of updating our 5-year plan that's required by the state, and there's a lot of new tools and new strategies that are in that 5-year plan that I hope will change the state of homelessness in Yakima County to basically to make homelessness in Yakima County as brief and rare as possible.
And one of the things that came up, which you were clear about but people misunderstood, you did say in the presentation that 53% of the homeless are chronically homeless. And a lot of our audience misinterpreted that and said you were saying 53% of Yakima County is homeless.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we just want to take this chance to get that clarification.
Yeah. You know, I spend a lot of the time talking about chronic homelessness because chronic homelessness is a special challenge we're facing in Yakima County. When you look at the state of homelessness in a lot of other counties, you don't see as high of a percentage of chronic homeless in their population, right? You have folks who are experiencing homeless under a year, but they're able to get out of their state of homelessness within that year. Where in Yakima County, for our folks, that's not the case. We have a lot of folks that are staying in a state of homelessness, whether it's in shelter or out in the elements dealing with their addictions or what have you. And so that was the point I was trying to make, that we have to focus that we have a large percentage of our unhoused community that is chronically homeless. And so unless we invest in permanent supportive housing, medical detox, or other terms of outputs, we're going to maintain a unhoused population that's going to go nowhere.
Okay, and so when the strategy is published, is it already published? Or
Draft 3 is on the county's website. We are going to have a full-blown work session with the Board of County Commissioners. We talked about it a little bit today, and we will go through the full plan. You know, it is 43 pages. There is a lot of technical stuff into it. I think for me, at the end of the day, it was important to have a plan that we can lean into and adapt as the challenge adapts, because the state of homelessness, what it looks like today is vastly different than what it looked like 5 years ago. And so we have to have a plan that we're able to navigate the changes, but also put your tax dollars into a system that will work alongside that.
Now, talking about tax dollars, one of the things that you did mention in your presentation was that it was a manageable $15 million deficit. Now, lots of people picked up on that. There's no such thing. Now, Amanda has already addressed some of that. Is there anything you'd like to clarify about what you meant by manageable?
You know, I think for our community, particularly in Yakima County, you need to know you have 3 commissioners who are conservatives, who are elected to represent our taxpayers. And so the last thing we're going to do is go to our taxpayers and ask for a revenue package to cover the budget deficit, right? And so, yes, $15 million, while it is a lot of money to a lot of people, when you look at the grand scheme of things for the county's budget, which is a $338 million, that's what your 2026 budget is looking like, 15 is absolutely manageable. What I will preface by saying, you will read about this every single day until the end of the year, where cities and counties are adopting their budgets, and a lot of the times you will see, oh, the county or the city found a one-time fix, we're going to dip into these funds to get us across the finish line. You know, for me, I recognize that that's not a manageable solution for the long run. And so for us, what we're doing in Yakima County is, we're going to have to dip into some funding to help alleviate some of the pain, but we're being straightforward and true and honest with our taxpayers, saying we're going to have to make some difficult decisions. And instead of waiting till November of 2026 for those decisions, I want to pass, alongside our 2026 budget, a timeline of when the commissioners are going to be making some pivotal decisions for this county. Our county jail is one of the big challenges we have. On average, it's an $18 to $20 million deficit that we're navigating, and so we have to address these big challenges. Otherwise, we're going to continue to kick this can down the road to a point where there is no options on the table.
Now, we did get a lot of responses to our poll that day. Now, it's not a scientific poll by any stretch, but it was a pulse poll that we got responses from. We've already discussed it with Amanda. but 52% said the county's view is it's in terrible state, and 36% said passable. I just want to get your snap reaction to that, how you feel that that's the visceral reaction to how things are
I'm
going.
not surprised.
Okay.
I'm not surprised. I mean, I'm born and raised here, lived here all my life, and we say it time and time again, those of us that, decide to become public servants and do our best for our community, is our community, we are the hardest on ourselves. We look at Yakima, we have a lot of good things that we should be blessed for, that are coming our way, that are in the works, but we are our hardest critics, and we really have to change that mindset. So I'm not surprised by that poll. I think for me, I get excited every single day to go into that courthouse because there is energy, there is leadership, there is vision with everyone that I work with, and it's just a matter of timing and putting the resources where they need to, and frankly time. Beautiful things take time, and we have a beautiful place. Yakima County is a beautiful place. We've got a lot of tourism that happens here. We've got a lot of challenges, and I think we should not recognize those, but I also think we need to do a better job as a community of celebrating our successes, because we have a lot to be blessed for.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. Now, we've got a lot of comments. Some of them we put to Amanda already. And I did say Kyle has already seen these before, so we did share those with him. But some of the things that just came up, one about raising tax revenue from cannabis sales.
Yes.
They're saying, but that's banned in the county.
It is.
Do you think that's an option?
Oh, absolutely, and that was something I put forward. I think that I'm elected on your behalf to make difficult decisions, and if I wasn't looking at all revenue streams, I'm not doing my job. And so for me, the cannabis sales tax is one that's on the table that the county, frankly, has left on the table and hasn't dipped into. Long story short, when cannabis was legalized in 2012, the state legislature defined mechanisms for counties to participate and take what's called the population basis of that cannabis sales tax and bring it back into your communities. Because Yakima County has an explicit ban in our unincorporated on the production, growing, and retail of cannabis, we're not able to take that population a portion of that tax. Now, there is a lot of debate of really how large of an amount is that. Some folks say it's only going to be $250,000. When I do the math, it's between $400,000 and $500,000 based off of other counties of our like size. But at the end of the day, I feel I'm not doing my job unless I bring that revenue package, because that revenue package doesn't cost an additional burden on our tax dollars. That's frankly dollars that we leave on the table that are being deployed on the west side.
So that's still being discussed, still being reviewed.
So right now, folks are going to see on their November ballot an advisory vote to the Board of County Commissioners. So if you vote yes, well, depending on how it's worded, you're answering the advisory vote to give guidance to the Board of County Commissioners. That doesn't mean it's going to open, but that is what my fellow commissioners agreed to, of putting it on the ballot. It was relatively inexpensive for us to add that question to the ballot, and yes, I understand it's the third time that we've gone to our voters to ask for their insight on this matter. I do think we're going to see a different response back. I think the state of the world is different. I don't think, 2017, when this question was on the ballot then, that, folks were dealing with the fentanyl crisis. And so I do think that when you look at cannabis versus all these other illicit drugs, that I think things have changed, but we'll see.
Okay, and that came from Jeanette Heater. Jeremy Sandino is saying that we need pro-business. Now, he says council members, but I think he means county commissioners. Do you consider yourself pro-business? They're saying that he doesn't. And he thinks, therefore, creating budgets, creating a better budget will be better if there's more pro-business attitude. Yeah, that's a great question. It's unfortunate that I'm not viewed as a pro-business commissioner, but I will say that is my background, right? I went to business school, finance degree. Budgets speak to me because I speak in numbers, and so everything that I do in that courthouse on and representing the constituents that elected me is with a business mindset. Every county program, every county dollar that we deploy, I'm constantly looking for efficiencies, constantly asking questions to bring out an opportunity to address efficiencies. And so I'm just wired that way. We just had a 2.5-hour budget discussion today as Board of County Commissioners, and all three of us pretty much are wired in the same way, that we have very finite taxpayer dollars that we can deploy. And so if we have to look for efficiencies or ways to do government better, more efficient, and faster. Because, what Mike is saying here is he says he believes we pay too much in taxes, but growth combats that problem. Absolutely. You hear, and I appreciate the city of Yakima and their conversation about the value of economic growth and what it does to municipals and the county at large, right? That is how
we get additional taxes is by bringing in manufacturing jobs that come into our rolls, and the excise taxes that they pay, and the job growth that comes from that, and the spending that comes from them. That is really the way you're able to get out of these large deficits, because you know this, John, you cover this all the time. You know, on average, your municipal and county governments, our expenses, because of inflation and all the things in the world, go up about 6% every single year on average, where my revenues, your tax dollars can only go up 1%. Where you either have to drastically cut services, or you take the risk and try to go to the voters and ask for them with a revenue package. And that's what the city of Yakima is doing now, and we'll see. I think for me, at the end of the day, I look at the county organization, the county family, that $338 million budget, as there's a lot of flexibility in it. And that's what we're navigating right now. We're able to do things to get us through the next few years so that we can focus on economic development, so that we can focus on addressing what we're going to do with our failing jails, those types of things.
Now, there's been a lot of confusion between what is county, what is city,
Yes.
what is state, and indeed what is federal. But Mike Flasher was saying he believes there should be an audit of the county books and repealing the general fund, because he believes the money just disappears there. But the general fund is also something that cities also manage as well, as indeed do states.
Yeah, so general fund for us, you know, in government, I guess when we talk about general fund, we're talking about the taxes that are levied from our taxpayers, and you're paying it on assessed value.
Which is very limited for you.
Very limited, yeah. So right now we bring in close to about 80 million in taxes that through levies that we collect from our taxpayers. 80 million of that 338 million. So there's a lot of other dollars that flow into it. I will say I have been very surprised at how transparent and how audited governments are. We are audited every year by the state auditor's office, and that, you know, it's interesting because I read these audits. I mean, these are, you know, these are lengthy things, and what they look for is just inconsistencies. They look for spending categories that shouldn't be there, and I'm excited to report that for Yakima County, we pretty much have stellar audits. You know, every now and then you're going to have one or two things that, you know, because of the way the state financing reporting policies change, and you know, maybe we didn't catch it this year, but anyway, it's very minimal. There is no fraud that I have expect or have seen in our county government. But that, you know, what's interesting though is no one audits the state agencies, right?
Well, I was just going to say that should the audit be independent of any of the state agencies? I mean, the state independent auditing the county, because Mike is saying that he believes this has now become a welfare county, and he thinks therefore the accountability, if it was independently audited, it would expose some of that. I'm assuming that's his point. It's a little bit confusing.
You know, I think there's two routes. I guess my head goes two ways. One, you know, it would be interesting if the state was to put out, say, an RFP and get 5 independent companies that are authorized to do audits, you know, on behalf of the state. I think that would be an interesting model. The other thing that I'm not afraid to push forward, if there's constituents that really want to spend the time to dive deep into our audits and or look at the finances, is an independent community-led audit group, right, of a council or what have you. And I would be full support, with the caveat that there is a lot of due diligence that comes into it. You know, for finance in government, it's vastly different than finance in the private sector. And I've had to come to terms with that. You know, when I look at a profit and loss sheet in the private sector, it reports to me differently than a profit and loss in government. And there is a learning curve, but it's nothing that no one in our community couldn't help us with.
Okay. Well, I hope that answers your question, Mike, and I apologise if I didn't interpret that correctly. Now, Robert Sonnen has written in. Now, you made this point. It's quite interesting, because he's saying Conservatives always complain about taxes and debt, but Republican mismanagement caused the debt. Now, we are in a very conservative area. You're right. We have a Republican Commission, we have a Republican City Council, but of course we do have a state Democrat government, effectively. So where is the blame?
Yeah, you know, I usually don't like to put blame. I usually just try to find solutions, right? And I think that's naturally where your counties are at, right? I can spend all day long complaining about the state, this, and that, because they mandate the counties shall do and don't provide us funding. And, you know, the community sees a program that the county's running and they're like, "What? That doesn't really fit my values," or "I don't think that program fits my community." But at the same time, the state says we must do buildings this way, or we must follow this rule. And so I've had to come to terms with that. I think what what people should be concerned about is electing commissioners who are able to navigate in the gray area. The state says you shall do it this way, but they leave some flexibility, and that's where you depend upon your elected leaders to figure out how do we either produce this program that the state wants us to produce, but do it in a way that better reflects the values of our community. And I would say that that's really where I feel I've provided value with our consolidated homeless grant dollars is, we get 73% of the dollars we use in the homeless system come from the state. So as a result, they come with strings attached of you can spend it this way or that way, but there is flexibility. And so I've educated myself to understand how is it that what can and can I not use those dollars, and I try to pivot those dollars in ways that better reflect the outcomes that our community wants to see.
Okay. Now, Shannon Bacon, and I hope I got that right, how much is paid towards the free attorneys and court visitors for the criminals or low-income people who are in guardianship cases? And she's saying we'd be amazed by the results.
Oh, it is a lot.
Yes. Okay.
Millions. I would say millions. We have an assigned counsel department, so any person that's incarcerated that's indigent, we have to provide them that through the U.S. Constitution. They are able to get a free attorney, and so your taxpayers pay for it. We are at a point where the cost is just and so what we've been doing is trying to figure out, is there a legislative fix to get us more additional dollars? Is there a way to change maybe the definition of indigent, because it's not a one-to-one factor, and there's a lot of things, but to that constituent's point, we spend a lot of money in indigent defense.
And is there a solution to that? Potentially not. I mean, if people are already in that financial crisis and we have a crime problem, it's surely just going to continue.
Yeah, but there are some ways to navigate, and again, I guess we can put blame on the state, but by mandating that assigned counsel lawyers are only able to see X amount of cases a year, right, puts a complete strain on the cost as well. And then
the shortage is a
shortage, and then
question, but it's a huge issue.
It's a huge issue. It's a huge issue, particularly for us on the east side of the state. King County doesn't have a problem with the assigned counsel caseloads because there's lawyers there that want to work in that field. But for us, we have a big challenge, and so there's a lot of things that I think we can do. I think the easiest and the solution that we're working towards is just figuring out ways to produce more lawyers in Eastern Washington is really the path that we're looking at.
Okay. Now finally, Hal Hollenbeck is saying, he was responding very specifically to your address. He said, how does it come across as positive? He says, taxpayers are not focusing on the drug addicts. Instead, you're focusing on first responders, roads and bridges. Now that's a different opinion from what most other people have expressed. How do you react to that?
Yeah, no, I would say it's very difficult in a 35-minute segment to cover all of the things, right, that are going on in county government. I think I welcome an invitation to sit down with anyone in our community to talk through any specific programs or of concern. When it comes to drug addiction and substance abuse in our community, we are very focused, laser focused on strategies. Medical detox is something that you've covered, and I think that's a program that we'll see hopefully in this community. But there are so many issues. There's no way you're going to cover all of them in a state of the county address at the chamber. But I'd be happy to sit down with anyone.
Well, we're very happy that you took the time today to come and talk to us, because obviously we actually had, I think, something like 300 comments.
Right on.
But we congested, what's the word? Not congested.
Condensed, yeah.
Sorry about that. Condensed them into the sort of the 10 topics that came up most of all. Of course, the big one was the county tax assessments that have just gone out.
Yes.
That's infuriated and indeed worried many people. But Jacob Tate has been in. He's addressed how people can get some alleviation of that.
Yep.
And Amanda's addressed it too. Is there anything you want to add to that about the state?
I have a lot of fun sitting down with Jacob Tate, our county assessor, understanding all of the mechanics that go into how we compute X numbers. And for me, I look at it in the sense we talked about economic development, right? It's like I want to know who the top 10 taxpayers are in our county, and you soon realize it's manufacturing, right? And so for me, I've wired myself to try to figure out ways to bring in manufacturing into the fold to help ease the tax burden for everyone else. I just want to say I appreciate that you've invited Jacob Tate. He is the subject matter expert. our county assessor, and I think that people just need to reach out to his office and understand that what he is doing and what he's trying to do is bring a level playing field.
Well, he did give into a lot of detail. He also gave a lot of options for people who are struggling to pay, etc.
Yes.
So it was very good to get that clarity,
Yep.
and that's available now to watch as well. Carl, thank you very much for coming in.
Yeah,
Always good to see you.
thank you, John.
Take
Appreciate
care.
it.
Cheers.
Cheers.